What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. I've got a highly requested video for you guys today. This is part 2 of the differences between your 1987 and 1993 Foxbody Mustang. But before we get started, I just wanted to say a big thanks to you guys. We are now over 2,500 subscribers. I can't believe it. And a big thanks to you guys. And hey, if you're not subscribed, what are you waiting on? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hey guys, I get a lot of requests on, hey, where do I find a Foxit hat, or where do I find a Foxit t-shirt, and also, where do I go buy your trim bezels at? If you guys are looking for that stuff, go to 417fox.com and everything is available on there. Also, everything is free shipping on the site. Let's get started with the video. Guys, as most of you know, I've been super busy in here in the shop working on this 57 build. Heck, I just finished this morning getting most of the old T65 V8 reassembled. Angela's been over here working on the car. You can kind of see in here, there's no Mustang in here because my poor babies are stuck outside in the cold. And let me tell you what, we are in a cold spell in Missouri right now. We are down in the teens and then below zero at night right now, so it is cold. And guys, excuse the shop because I've been super busy with this 57 build and it is a mess in here. But that last video I put out on what's the differences between your 87 and 93 Fox bodies has been an outstanding video for the community, because you guys have got on there and I see guys exchanging back and forth in the comment section, talking about this car, that car, I have this. Great stories on there, and that's what it's all about, the Foxbody community. And you guys have got on there, gave me a bunch more information, corrected some stuff. Thank you for that. And I thought it'd be great, and a lot of requests were, let's go ahead and make this second video. So a lot of this information, I did some more research, but a lot of this information is from you guys, so I really appreciate that. And I'm also going to call out a couple of subscribers in today's video because they had some fantastic comments on that last video. And if you haven't seen that last video, I'm going to put one of those cards up here right now. You'll want to go back and watch it and then come back and check this one out. Guys, as we talk about some of the differences on the Foxbody Mustang, I think it's important to go back and look at some history that I didn't even know. There were 3 design teams, from 2 from Michigan and 1 from Italy. So I didn't know that. I was just thinking it was Michigan designers. But actually that's why the Foxbody had more of a European influence, because of the Italy designers when they first designed the Foxbody Mustang. I didn't know this. So your Mustang 2, which kind of looked like a Pinto on steroids in my opinion, which is probably in most people's opinion. Now, when I say most, that doesn't mean everybody, but in most people's opinion, the Mustang 2 is probably the least desirable Mustang that may have ever been produced. Now, I think there are some pretty cool versions of it, like the Cobra was probably the best looking Mustang 2, but for the most part, they're probably the least desirable. But you know, the Foxbody, when it first came out, it was actually a little larger, but over 100 pounds lighter than the Mustang 2 was. So that was an advantage already right off the bat. To kick it off, I really want to start off with one of my most favorite subscriber comments, and I'll start off with that. Plus, you guys are going to want to hear one of the coolest stories and funny stories that I've ever heard that was also in the comments section. So guys, go back to that video and just read through the comments, because there is some priceless stuff. I can't cover it all on this video, but it would be worth going back and looking at some of the comments, plus some of the technical details that were provided. You guys are a wealth of knowledge in this Foxbody community. So I'm going to start off with, so Brian Clay got on there and he commented on the that last video. He said, I have a couple for you. The interior with the premium sound system, the amp is actually under the passenger seat on 1993 only cars, and before that it was actually in front of the radio, right in front of the center console. Also, he said, and the engine in the 1993, the head boats were TTY, which means torque to yield. In other years, they were normal boats that could be reused. So we all heard about that. Of course, with the TTY boats, you can't reuse those because they stretch and they'll never hold the proper torque settings again if you try to reuse those head boats. And also, so here's probably the most cool. Here's the coolest part about his comment. He said, just by the way," he said, "I am the original owner of a '93 LX Coupe in Reef Blue, which is a cool color and a rare color, 5.0 5-speed with no options, no option car, in '93 too." So think about that. So no cruise, no power windows, no AC, no power locks. It came with a regular radio and a defrost. It's a black interior car. So a Reef Blue, black interior, 505 speed, LX notch with no options. That is awesome. I would love to see that car. So Brian, if you're watching this video, make sure you email me some pictures of your car. I would love to see it. 417fox@gmail.com. Getting back to some of the differences, guys. So your 87 to 89 dash warning lights, if you've ever looked at one of those instrument bezels, there's a little cutout section that has a little screen on it right there on the right bottom right of your 87 to 89 cars. That actually had all of your warning lights contained in that section. Now, when Ford revised in '90 to the new dash instrument bezel, all of that there, all of your warning lights actually moved to the instrument cluster. So that's a good call out. That was actually from a subscriber. Also, here's a correction. There was actually a black fuse cover on the 90 to 93 cars. You guys heard me harp on that about being an afterthought. So it was not left without a cover from the factory. Many of them were lost, of course, because the tabs broke off so easy, and that's why you don't see them very much. Guys, I had a 91 GT that was EP red back in '93, and gosh, I mean, I don't remember that being on air. I think it was probably already lost back in '93. So also, I have another correction from that video. 87 to 89 cars, I think I said all of them had tilt. They don't all have tilt. It was an option. Now, most of your 5.0 cars did come with that because more of your 5.0 cars were more highly optioned cars, but you could still get a non-tilt car in those 87 to 89 cars because it was an option. So guys, I know on the last video we talked a lot about these sport seats and how they differed between your standard seats and then also when they were available in your LX cars, in your 5.0 LX cars, when they finally started getting the same interior as your GT cars. And we think about the sport seat option that had the large headrest on it. Those were actually a higher back seat as well. So with that large headrest that ended in '89, they were a 26-inch tall back versus when they went to the small headrest and starting in '90, they were actually a 24-inch back on top of the smaller headrest. So I thought that was a pretty cool and interesting fact. So I got some pretty interesting details about convertibles. Your convertible cars received standard power windows in '91. So if it was a convertible car, you weren't getting it with roll-up windows starting in '91. So a new power top was also added that year that it was revised to where when it closed, it actually closed further into the body cavity for a better look. So starting in '91, and they also, I think in '91, made the headliner for your convertible top standard. So guys, I also have another good comment from a subscriber on that last video, on your differences video. And this was from Jose Rosa. And in 90 to 91, convertibles actually had rear power window switch in the speaker grill. I didn't know that. It had their own switch that was in the speaker grill. Here's another good one from a subscriber. Janetta Posius, hope I didn't butcher that last name. The 88 LX convertibles built before October of 1987 had side mirrors mounted on the window. The ones built in October of '87 and after had them mounted on the door. I didn't know that. I've got a good one here from FoxFan89. He said the 25th anniversary cars was actually, and I know I'd mentioned this on the last video about not knowing when the dates were between your anniversary cars that come with the anniversary badging on the dash, and some cars were 89 and some of them were 90. What Ford did is from April to April, so about 2/3 of the year for 89 were designated as 25th anniversary cars, and then about 1/3 of 1990 through April they were actually designated as 25th anniversary cars. And Ford did that to basically mirror the production of the original 64.5 Mustang. Although we covered some of this on the last video, Fox Fan really pointed out some key interesting facts about the 89 cars. So I got a lot of comments that really says that the 89s were the best year of your aero cars. And I don't know if I can disagree with him. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of tend to go your 91 to 93 cars because there were some revisions to your front fenders to where they allowed for a little larger tire option package. But at the end of the day, when you think about it, he points out that, of course, it was the first year for mass air on all cars. It was the first year for the 140 Speedo. It was the last year for tilt wheel, being able to be, and also being able to properly install like a Momo or a Celine type steering wheel. Also, it was the last year for the tallbacks. We already kind of mentioned that. And it was the last year for the adjustable thigh support. I remember that being an option where the thigh support could be adjusted. And it was also the last year for the bigger GT headrests. So he was like, hey, 89 was the best year. I can't disagree with him. So as we kind of talk about the differences, I had a lot of requests to talk about the SSP Mustang and the differences between it. And we didn't really get into that last video. And as I was researching that, I would love for you to see me when I come across something. I'm a little bit of an aviation nut. I love airplanes. I've loved airplanes since I was a little kid. And how does the SSP and aviation have anything to do with each other? I'll tell you in just a minute. So guys, as you know, the SSP Mustang, which stands for Special Service Package. When we think of an SSP, we're mostly thinking about your police versions of the Mustang. Now, that wasn't always the case, but some of the differences on your SSP cars were they had a larger capacity alternator, like 130, 135 amp alternator. They had additional grounding in the car, of course, all the additional equipment in the car, electronic equipment. They had an oil cooler. They had a transmission oil cooler. They actually had a 2-piece speedometer cable. Your earlier cars, I think up to 88, were 140 mile an hour speedo calibrated, and then they went to 160 mile an hour speedo. They were calibrated speedos. Did you guys know that the courtesy lights were non-operational? That was a safety feature for your SSP cars. Something else you had on those cars, that you had a single key versus your 2 keys. So you had a single key for unlock and starting the car. They had reinforced floor pans. Had a full-size spare tire. They had silicone radiator hoses that didn't have your standard clamps. They had aircraft-style clamps for your radiator hoses. So when you think about all those things that were the differences on your SSP cars, they're basically just a heavy-duty version of the Mustang. Now, here is what I came across that I thought was the coolest thing I found about your SSP cars. So, the U.S. Air Force needed a new chase vehicle for the U-2 spy plane. So the U-2 spy plane needed a vehicle to assist with landing. So they needed a chase vehicle that could communicate with the pilot. And of course, this car had to be fast enough to be able to track with the pilot and assist with landing. So I think it was actually in '86 when they ordered their first ones, and then they ordered a few more after that, and I think they even also had a '93 version of it as well. They purchased SSP Mustangs for the Air Force for the spy plane project with the U-2. Of course, you guys know that the U-2 was actually ran and operated by the CIA, but of course operated by the Air Force. So how cool is that? Now we'll talk a little bit about some of the special edition Mustangs. This was another cool and fun fact that I found out that I did not know before. So we all know about these 7-Up Edition Mustangs. Where did that come from? I just knew they were 7-Up Edition Mustangs that were dark green, turbine, white leather interior cars that were all convertibles, right? Just like most of you guys. Here's what I found out that was pretty cool and interesting. So the 1990 Special Edition 7-Up was actually a failed promotion car. They were actually going to be cars to promote half-court shots for the NCAA tournament by Ford. And that promotion was canceled in the last minute. How about that? They were promotional cars for the NCAA basketball tournament. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this second installment of all of these differences. But before we go, I've got right here that I've got to share with you one of the funniest and coolest stories that I found on the last comment section. From Jaybird. Had an 89 model and he got pulled over and was handcuffed and about to have his car searched. The reason why he was about to have his car searched was that the rookie police officer thought the map light was mounted paraphernalia. Now, that's interesting in itself. And then a more seasoned officer showed up and took a look for himself and found that it was, of course, a map light. So long story short, he was just, so can you imagine him just, so Jaybird's just sitting back there confused, wondering what's going on, and of course, the more experienced officer comes up there and goes, yeah, dude, that's a map light. Thanks, Jaybird, for sharing that. And you guys share yours too. I love getting in there and reading your comments. And not just reading your comments, but you guys get in there. And I love seeing the interaction between the subscribers getting in there on videos like this and sharing their experiences, sharing their stories, sharing all of their times that they've had in Foxbodies and what they've owned and what they've had, and cool stories like Jaybird. So for now, I'm going to catch you guys on the next one, and I really appreciate you watching. See you on the next one.